I want to talk about Israel. I want to talk about the most recent developments in Israel. Before the latest strike, and it's not even the latest strike anymore, on Beirut, Lebanon, Abbas, the president of the, whatever it is, it says the Palestinian Authority, he addressed the UN General Assembly. And notice carefully what he said. He called the holiest Jewish site, the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, the exclusive property of Muslims. He referred to Israel as a terrorist state that does not deserve membership in the United Nations. He also referred to Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir as a terrorist for, listen closely, calling for a third temple to be built on the mount. So the third temple issue is not going away, and we know from the Bible that a third temple will be erected on the Temple Mount, rather sooner than later. Also, on September 28, the US Sun reported that the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah has been killed in a massive missile blitz on Lebanon. And so he was the terror group's Secretary General, the number one guy in Lebanon when it comes to Hezbollah. The death of Nasrallah, considered by many to be the single most powerful individual in Lebanon, is a pivotal moment of Israel and has sparked fears of wider escalation. Before I go into that, I'd like to go back to some events which took place prior to this assassination. The Sun had written on September 20 that Israel had already killed the second in command of Hezbollah. His name escapes me, so not that important that we remember it. But anyhow, it was a guy. The United States had offered a $7 million bounty for him because he had been recognized as a terrorist. And so he was killed. That was before the most recent strike. In response, Hezbollah struck Tel Aviv, and that was the first time they had ever targeted Tel Aviv due to the defense system of Israel. It didn't cause any death at the time. But then another interesting development. Israel Today wrote on September 20 that Jerusalem's old city, in addition to Judea and Samaria, must be Judenrein. Judenrein, that's the word Hitler used. Free of Jews. It must be Judenrein within a year, according to a Palestinian drafted resolution, which the UN General Assembly passed on Wednesday. The resolution calls on the Israel Defense Forces to withdraw completely from Judea and Samaria, eastern Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip within 12 months, which means evacuating all Jewish communities beyond the armistice line, including Jerusalem's old city. So they want all the Jews to leave these areas, including Jerusalem's old city. Now, it's a non-binding resolution, but it shows you where it's going. It shows you where people are putting their priorities and their alliances. And then we have an article about France attacks Israel. We have an article about Germany's failed policy by Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor, and German Foreign Minister Baerbock. All of their policies have failed, and this article, which is actually by a German paper, Focus, wrote, "There can be no equality between the Israeli government and a terrorist organization. We are dealing with a democratically legitimized government on the one hand, and a bunch of terrorists on the other. Those in both the West Bank and the Gaza Strip have decided to drive Israel into the sea and eradicate the Jewish state." Did we not read this in the Bible? Did we not just sing a song today, the second hymn, talking about that the name of Israel shall be remembered no more? That's exactly what is being prophesied. That's exactly what these nations are trying to accomplish. Of course, you have Mr. Erdogan, the president of Turkey, we should not forget him, an ardent enemy of Israel. We have an article in there showing that he compared Israel to Nazi Germany. He compared Netanyahu to Hitler. And he, of course, has been saying time and again that Israel should be wiped out. Now, the Bible has a lot to say about Turkey. Edom. And God is going to hold them responsible for their vicious conduct towards Israel. You can read that in several books in the Bible. Fox News wrote on September 25 that President Biden lost his moral compass entirely. He spoke also to the UN. Anti-Semitism that is promoted and incited by the United Nations and those in his General Assembly audience didn't address that at all. It says his final speech was an opportunity to be honest and chastise the United Nations itself as an impediment to tolerance, equality, and world peace. He squandered it. The UN has become an institution of complete, total anti-Semitic tendencies, and so actually is Europe. Going back now to the assassination of the number one terrorist leader of Hezbollah. One time I was told the name was Hezbollah, but I think they call it now Hezbollah because it's too close to Allah. So they want to make sure there's no similarity there. I found the reactions to the attack quite revealing. And the New York Post put some of those reactions together. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, urged the Muslim world to stand up and stand by Lebanon and Hezbollah. The international community has expressed concern that these bombings in Lebanon would inevitably lead to an even wider war in the Middle East. UN Secretary General Guterres told the Security Council on Friday war in Lebanon could lead to further escalation involving outside powers. Fox News wrote, the immediate question is not whether Iran will respond, but how. They said Iran's leadership cannot simply sit back while Hezbollah endures these levels of humiliation and harm. To do so would not only result in the weakening or loss of its most important proxy, but could signal the start of the unraveling of its entire regional strategy of eradicating the state of Israel, empowering Islamist groups, and expelling US forces from the Middle East. In addition, of course, Iran pointed out that the path of this number one leader in Lebanon will continue, and his goal will be realized in Jerusalem's liberation. Now, have you read about a psalm which talks about Arab nations getting together with Germany to eradicate Israel, to wipe it off the map? We see more and more how these prophecies are being fulfilled. The Houthis over there in Yemen, of course, said that the killing of Nasrallah, his martyrdom, will increase the strength of sacrifice, determination, and continuity. Iraq, you remember about Iraq, how former President Bush had to send the American troops to Iraq to liberate Iraq from Saddam Hussein, right? Iraq has become a complete, total ally of Iran and totally an ally of those who are against the United States. And so here Iraq's prime minister said, the killing of Nasrallah showed the reckless desire to expand the conflict at the expense of all the peoples of the region and their security and stability. I found interesting the reaction of the Lebanese people. Here's a reaction by the leading Christian politician in Lebanon, saying, he mourned the death of Nasrallah as a major loss and said it was a hard time for all Lebanese, adding, in the face of the Israeli enemy, we have no choice but to be together as Lebanese. Together. Muslim, Christian, whatever, all together against Israel and, of course, against the United States, because they are being looked upon, the United States that is, as supporting Israel, even though it's a question mark in my mind, but at least that's how they're being looked upon. The former Lebanese president said that he referred to the dangers our country is witnessing as a result of the ongoing Israeli aggression, which requires rising to the highest level of national solidarity that protects and fortifies our unity, because that is a true salvation. And then the former Lebanese prime minister said, Lebanon was everyone's tent, no matter who lived there. Hezbollah, one of the most aggressive terrorist organizations, in addition to Hamas and the Houthis. So they're all under the Lebanese tent. In this extremely difficult phase, our unity and solidarity remain the foundation. Of course, then Erdogan, he had to say his words, of course, saying that the Muslim world should show a more determined stance against Israel. But I found this comment by Russia extremely interesting. Russia also criticized Israel for killing Nasrallah, with a statement from the country's foreign ministry saying it decisively condemns the latest political murder carried out by Israel and once again insistently urges Israel to immediately cease military action. Can you think of a more hypocritical comment? Here's Russia, here's Putin, a war criminal who has occupied, invaded, attacked Ukraine militarily, and he is having the gall to make that kind of a statement about Israel. But it shows the craziness this world is in at this point. The EU Foreign Affairs Chief, Joseph Borrell, another anti-Semite in my mind, he voiced regret Friday that no power, including the United States, can stop Netanyahu. And he said, we cannot just rely on the United States. The United States tried several times, they didn't succeed. So we see Europe is becoming more and more unified in their approach against Israel, in their approach against the United States. Isn't that something which we have been telling the world, those who are willing to listen, for I don't know how many decades, that is going to happen? Now it's happening. Nobody seems to pay any attention. And so this morning it was revealed that Israel has struck again on Beirut after killing Hezbollah boss Hassan Nasrallah. And it says that the Israeli military chief acknowledged that challenging days await for Israel after confirming the death of Hezbollah Secretary General, with Iran and Hezbollah's allies vowing revenge. Israel defended its operation in Lebanon today amid growing pressure from its allies to de-escalate, claiming that it had thwarted a Hezbollah plot to carry out an attack similar to October 7th. So they say that is the reason why they attacked Hezbollah in the way they did. Now, when you read the news articles, overall, the impression is given that Israel will win that war and that they are going to be successful, that Iran will not do anything great because they are a little bit afraid of Israel. They may just give weapons to their proxies. It was announced today that there was a plane with weapons which was supposed to land in Lebanon, and Israel, at the last minute, stopped the landing of that plane, a plane from Iran, that is. But we shouldn't forget that at this point, Israel is involved in a four-front war. A war against Hezbollah, a war against Hamas, a war against the Houthis, and of course a war against Iran. On top of that, if you want to add some more challengers here, it's a war against Turkey, it's a war against many Arab nations, and frankly, even though it's not a war yet, but it could be very soon, a war against Europe. Now, Hitler lost his war when he had to fight a two-front war. Here we have a four-front war plus. So I am not at all convinced that Israel will become here the victor in all of these developments. Now the Bible is telling us, in the book of Hosea, that Israel will receive a wound. And once that wound has been received, and we have felt for many, many years that this is referring to a defeat in war, not the big war at the time of the Great Tribulation, but a war before that, then they will go to King Rahab, the king of Assyria, the king of the north, the beast, trying to find help from him, but the Bible says he will not help them. Now, that beast has not materialized yet, but we don't know how far before this beast materializes, Israel will receive that deadly wound, or that wound, I should say. It might very well happen now. And then shortly thereafter, whatever shortly means, the beast will show up. So what we are seeing right now is a tremendously important situation. And I believe you would agree with me, you can see how certain parts of prophecy is being fulfilled as we speak. The downfall of the United Kingdom, the downfall of the United States, and let me just say this, it doesn't matter who's going to be the next president. The downfall of the United States is inevitable, and the relationship between America and America's allies will deteriorate no matter what. No matter what. Russia and Ukraine will unite. Europe will finally have a leader. 10 nations or groups of nations will give their power to the beast. The beast then will start World War III. Then World War III is going to start. A nuclear war. The Great Tribulation. And there are many more things. The third temple has to be built. Now, we don't know when exactly that's going to be built. Whether it's going to be built after the Great Tribulation has started or before. Either way, it's going to be built. And then the man of sin, that false prophet, will be in that temple, claiming to be Jesus Christ. And Christ is warning us, saying, don't believe it a moment, because I will not come back in a secret way. I will come back openly for every eye to see. Forget the secret rapture concept. But you see, there are so many things which are floating around, which are all wrong. And the member letter will talk a little bit about the danger of deception. And we have seen it before, how people in the church can be awfully and terribly deceived. And so we are being warned to watch, to pray always, and to be sure enough that we understand the truth and not being deceived.